Let's solve a little mystery in the 1985 MSX game Doki Doki Penguin Land. A couple days ago, I saw the following post on Blue Sky by MP83. They say, "I've played Doki Doki Penguin Land many times in my lifetime, and I've never had this happen before. Does anybody know what the trigger is to have the mole appear from the window like that? I'm having troubles trying to recreate this." That's a neat little challenge. Let's reverse engineer Doki Doki Penguin Land. The goal in the game is to have the little penguin push and drop the egg all the way to the bottom of the level. The egg can break, however, so you can't drop it from too high, and there's moles and bears around that try to attack your egg. Once you reach the bottom of the level, you drop the egg all the way down, and the female penguin will take care of it, ironically by smashing it to bits. If you look at the screenshots MP83 posted, we first see the before state, where the egg hasn't dropped yet and no mole inside. The second screenshot shows the end of the bonus sequence, revealing the prize inside the egg, the bonus counter, and the mole in the window. While playing the game myself, I had different results. I didn't get a cake as a bonus prize, but a beer mug, which also wasn't worth 3,000 points, but just 1,000. There was also no mole in the window to be found. My first thought was that it was score related, but if you look in the top row of the game, the score MP83 had was 1500, and my score was a little bit higher, so something strange was going on. First, I decided to figure out what triggers the different prizes that are inside the egg. Perhaps that was related to the showing of the mole in the window. I consistently kept getting a beer mug, never a cake. A quick Google landed me on the Game FAQs website, where somebody had written a walkthrough for the game. There, I found all the prizes you could get at the end of a level. At first, it seems to imply that the amounts associated with each prize is the score you need to reach to obtain that prize, but that is simply wrong. It's the amount of points you receive for that particular prize. The author writes underneath how they are uncertain how the bonus is determined. I think the bonus has to do with where you drop the egg finally and how close the wife is, or maybe how many hearts you get on enemies you kill. There are so many factors, I didn't check them all. The approach I usually take is to look at all the stuff that's being written to RAM and try to assign some names to a couple of memory locations by playing the game a bit. First, we have to find out where that piece of RAM is located. If we look at offset OX4000, we see that the ROM is being placed there. The AB ROM header is right there. Knowing that the ROM is 32 kilobytes long, or OX8000 in hex, we add that to the 4000 hex to arrive at OXC000 as a potential start for our RAM values. C000 seems to be unused though, so let's scroll down a bit until we see rapidly changing values. D000 is clear too, but when we arrive at E000 we see lots of activity. This must be where the game writes its memory values. After playing the game for a while, I ended up with this. All the highlighted values are memory locations that I could give a name, such as the current score, level number, eggs remaining, etc. Before delving into disassembly, let's step back and put ourselves in the mindset of the programmers of the game, back in 1985. Determining the bonus item should depend on an action the user took, and probably not some random value. There were a couple of potential candidates that could affect the bonus item, just as was suggested in the walkthrough on Game FAQs. Score, which we had initially ruled out already, game timer, a hidden timer that keeps track of how long you've been playing the current level, and the heart pickup count. Messing with the score and game timer did not yield any results, but the heart pickup counter did. As you can see in my playthrough, the hearts picked up memory location shows the value of 2. Let's drop the egg and see which prize we get. The beer mug. Now let's do that again, but we'll change the value to 3. And yes, the prize changed to a ring. Let's look at the table in Game FAQs again. Assuming beer is 2 and ring is 3, it seems these are listed in order, as 0 hearts picked up would give you no prize at all. Here's all the potential results. They match the list perfectly. On top of that, it seems the author of the walkthrough didn't realize there was a 7th prize, the diamond, with a value of 50,000 points. We now know for a fact that the bonus prize is determined by the amount of hearts you pick up, nothing more, nothing less. If you want to play with this yourself, the memory location for the amount of hearts picked up is at E2A0. Unfortunately, by figuring out what exactly determines which bonus prize you get, we also realize that the bonus prize has no influence on whether the mole is visible in the window or not. We'll need a different approach. Usually, when reverse engineering these kinds of things, we see something happen in the game and we try to figure out which memory value would be related to that event so that we have something to put a breakpoint on or investigate. In this case, we're not seeing anything happen as we don't know how to trigger it. That makes it hard to get started, so we'll have to find a different way. First, let's look at the pattern table, available from the VDP tile viewer menu in OpenMSX. Here we see which tiles the game currently has loaded while in a level. It took me a bit to realize, but the mole is staring us right in the face. We have 3 tiles here and 3 tiles here. Combine the 2 sets in the lower half of the window, and there's the mole we've been looking for. Every pattern has its own index, so we know that the ones we are interested in are patterns 34, 35 and 36, as well as 78, 79 and 80. In hex, those values are 22, 23 and 24, and for E, for F and 50. The assumption now is that during the bonus sequence at the end of a level, 2 little loops of 3 iterations are executed to copy these pattern IDs into the name table at the correct spot, so that the mole is visible in the window. Problem is, nowhere in the disassembly could I find the place where hex value 22 gets loaded into a register to then be transferred to VRAM. After quite a bit of thinking about why the hex value 22 would not be a parameter to an instruction, I finally realized, what if the sets of pattern indexes are simply stored in the ROM as data, and a pointer to them is used in a loop? Let's open the hex editor and search for hex 22, 23, 24. The first match doesn't make sense. It's the special characters after the alphabet that has nothing to do with our mole. The next match, however, is different. Not only do we find the 3 bytes next to each other, the following 3 bytes are for E, for F and 50. This cannot be a coincidence, these must be the indexes for the mole in the window. The offset of these 6 bytes in the ROM is 0x3952, and we know that the ROM is mapped to address 4000 in memory. That means that if we add those 2 together, we finally have a target address we can search for in the disassembly, 0x7952. If we search for this value, we find only one reference in the entire ROM. What's interesting to see is that the actual sequence of 6 bytes is just below where the pointer is referenced. It clearly belongs together. Let me highlight the function boundary. We start by loading the value of E2BF into the accumulator. At this point, we don't know what this memory address represents, and I overlooked this value when I was investigating the memory at the start of this little project. The value is immediately compared to OXOB, or 11 in decimal. If the value is higher than or equal to 11, we exit the function. This means we have found the trigger for the mole. Some value needs to be lower than 11 for it to appear in the window. The question remains, what does memory location E2BF represent? The easiest way to find that out is to put a watch point on that memory address and play the game. Whenever we perform the action that changes this memory value, the game will break, and we just have to remember what we exactly did at that point in the game. Turns out we don't have to wait long. Pretty much the first action we undertake, breaking a block, triggers the watch point. Now that we know what this memory represents, let's fast forward to the ending and force that value to be smaller than 11. As you can see, the value is currently OXOD, or 13, so the mole wouldn't show. I'll change it to 5. Let's let the ending of the level play out. There's our mole. We figured it out. A bit more experimenting with this memory value showed me that it only increments when you actually break a block, not when you drop a boulder or when you drop the egg through a chute. If you want to try it for yourself on the first level, try going through the left side of the level. On the right side is a big chunk of terrain you have to dig through, so you have to break a lot of blocks. The left side is a bit trickier, but will let you reach the bottom of the level with only a few blocks broken. If you have any other mysteries in these old games you'd want to be investigated, make sure to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.